Hello, friends, and welcome to another session of English literature. So, today I'm gonna discuss La Belle Dame sans Merci by John Keats. You can also check out the other poems by John Keats in my channel. I'll provide the links in the description box. Okay. As a romantic poet, John Keats is a gem of English literature. Though his lifespan was short, but still in this short span of time, he created some masterpiece poems of English literature. John Keats's poems are full of sensuousness. As a romantic poet, he had an affinity towards the Greek. That's why Hellenism is also seen in his poems. And in some of the poems, he had shown beautifully the contrast or conflict between the imaginary world and the real world. And among them, the most notable poem is La Belle Dame sans Merci. So today I'm going to explain line by line John Keats's famous ballad La Belle Dame sans Merci. So actually La Belle Dame sans Merci is a French term. Here la means the in English, belle means beautiful, dame means lady, sans means without, and merci means mercy or pity. So the English meaning of this term is the beautiful lady without pity or mercy. So let's start the explanation of La Belle Dame sans Merci. So this is the full poem. This poem is divided into 12 stanzas and each stanza consists of 4 lines. So friends, this poem or this ballad shows the atmosphere of late autumn and early winter. So here the poet or the speaker encounters with a knight at arms who is alone, wandering or loitering. Here in the stanza number 1, the poet asks the knight at arms, "Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sage has withered from the lake and no birds sing." So here in the first 2 lines, the poet is questioning the knight at arms that, "Oh, what can ail thee? What is bothering you, knight at arms? Where are you? Why are you loitering? Why are you wandering without any aims, all alone, sadly or palely?" And then the poet is saying that as this is the winter season, that's why besides the lake, the sage means the grass or the herbs has withered or dried. And there is no bird outside, no bird is singing because this is the winter time. And in outside there is so much cold, that's why maybe the birds have flown to warm places. Then again in the stanza number 2, the poet questions the knight at arms that, "Oh, what can ail thee? What is bothering you, knight at arms? Because you are looking so tensed, you are looking so tiresome, so upset. What is the problem?" Then in the line number 7 and 8, the poet is saying that the squirrel's granary is full. It means that as this is the winter time, that's why the squirrels has made their granary full so that they can easily spend the winter. Even the harvest done. It means that just because it is winter time, that's why all the harvest of the season is ripe and the harvest is also done. So now there comes stanza 3. Here the poet is saying that, "I see a lily on thy brow with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose first withered too." It means that the poet is saying that he saw a line of tension, line of anguish on the forehead of the knight at arms. So that's why the poet is saying that the knight at arms' brow became pale and it looks like the color of lily flower. So after noticing this, the poet is saying that because of tension and because of anguish, there is the presence of feverish sweat in the forehead of the knight. And because of this tension, because of the anguish, the knight's cheeks are also looking pale like a fading rose. So these were the questions of the poet to the knight at arms. Now the knight at arms is replying from the stanza number 4 onwards. So here the knight at arms is saying that, "I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairest child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, her eyes were wild." So here the knight at arms is replying, is saying that in the meads, in the meadow, he encounters with a beautiful lady who was a fairest child. She was long-haired, light-footed, and her eyes were wild. So here actually the knight at arms recounts his encounter with a fairest child, with a beautiful lady. Now in the 5th stanza he is saying that, "I made a garland for her head and bracelets too. And fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love and made sweet moon. Sweet means that the knight was bewitched. The knight was awestruck by the beauty of the lady, and he fell madly in love with her. And the lady also reciprocated to his love. That's why the knight made her a garland, made her a bracelet, and gave her a girdle of sweet-smelling flowers. So after this we have stanza number 6. Here the knight is saying that I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long. For sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. So here actually the knight is saying that the knight and the lady, they rode in his horse together all day long, and the lady also sang a fairy song. Okay. So now we have stanza number 7. So here the knight is saying that the beautiful lady gave him or served him some roots of delicious taste, the honey of the wild bees, and drops of manna. So what is manna? Manna is a heavenly food. Okay. So in order to feed the hungry knight, the lady served all these things to the knight. And then in an unknown language means the language which the knight do not know. Okay, so in that unknown language, the lady told the knight that as the knight loves her, she also loves the knight as well. So now we have stanza number 8. Here the knight is saying that the lady took the knight to her elfin grot. So elfin grot means the fairy's cave, or this is a kind of adobe for the supernatural creatures. And there she started weeping, and that's why the knight gave her 4 kisses, and thus he shut her wild eyes very adorably. Okay. Now in the stanza number 9, the knight is saying that and there and in the den the lady lulled me asleep. Means the lady, the beautiful lady, the fairy's child lulled him asleep in her den. So now there comes the turning point. There comes the terrible experiences that were witnessed by the knight himself in the cold hillside den of the beautiful lady. So in her den, when he slept, then he saw a terrible dream. So now in the stanza number 10, there is the description of the dream. So here the knight is saying that he saw pale kings, pale princes, warriors who were like the dead bodies. They warned the knight at arms that he had been enslaved by the beautiful lady, who was not a fairy's child but who was an enchantress. All of the dead kings, princes, warriors, they cried, La belle dame sans mercy, means the beautiful lady without mercy will lead you to your doom. So here actually in the knight's dream, all the dead bodies, all the dead kings, princes, warriors, they warned the knight that this lady is without mercy and soon the knight will lead to his doom by the enchantress. So again in the stanza number 11, the knight is saying that he saw in his dream the starved lips, the gloomy lips of the kings, the princesses, the warriors who were like dead bodies. And then suddenly the knight woke up and he found him on the cold hillside. So actually from the stanza number 4 to the stanza number 11, these stanzas were the answer of the knight to the question of the poet. And now in the stanza number 12, the knight is saying that because of all these reasons, because of his encounter with the lady, and finally when the lady deserted him in the hillside, that's why, or since then, he has been loitering there in search of the lady. So that's why the knight is saying that though the lakeside sage has withered and there is no bird singing, since he is sojourning here and looking all alone and pale, because he is searching the lady. So in this way, John Keats in this poem shows the contrast or conflict between the ideal or imaginary world and the real world. So with this we ended up discussing La Belle Dame sans Mercy. Thank you so much for watching this video.